I guess we need an intro. Let's go.
Hello, everybody. What's good? Welcome back to the Entrepreneur 360 podcast. Join again. She's back. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
It's been a minute.
I would say that I've missed you, but
We've still seen a fair amount of each other over the last couple of months. I think it's probably been over a month since we recorded. I've been quite busy. For those who've been following the podcast, you know that I've been busy. Firstly, before I start, please do me a favor and just like and share the podcast with people. This is the only way that the podcast is getting out at the moment, is obviously with sharing. And Simone's mouthing something to me. I missed it.
everyone needs to subscribe.
Oh, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe, guys. If you're on Spotify, give us a thumbs up. Answer the polls. I'm starting to run polls on there. But most importantly, I think if you're not in the Facebook group, like that's kind of where the obviously I haven't been that active in it, but I'm starting to get some help in that regard. So trying to get a bit more active on social media to start sharing what we're doing, because I'm super proud over the last couple of months of not even a couple of months, month or two. I mean, the podcast really just launched, I think it was end of June, so it's like been live for a month or two, and already we're already in season kind of 3 of what I've put out there. But what I'm most proud about is the strategy that I've got going forward for the podcast. I made a decision that I need to practice what I preach on the podcast, and what I talk about a lot is like being the best in the world at something. And you only become the best in the world when you surround yourself with the best people in the world. And I'm proud to say that I have released 2 episodes now with, as far as what I consider to be the 2 best people in the world at what they do. One is an entrepreneur who is the best in the world at what he does. He's proven it. He's got a track record, and he's currently proving it in the United Kingdom. Probably one of the most unforgiving places on earth at the moment, I would imagine. And I'm not just talking about the weather, just generally speaking. And the other one is, without a doubt, the most referred and recommended human being that anybody could ask for. Sorry, that entrepreneur I'm talking about is Sean Else. An old friend of mine from grade 1. I was 5 years old. And the best, I don't know what he would consider himself. Let's just call him a Renaissance man, because that's kind of how I see him. Ronen Ayres, who is, I was told, dude, you need to talk to him about cold plunging because he's the guy. So his episode is out now as well, and they've both agreed to kind of go long term with the podcast, which I'm so grateful to them for. Monthly, potentially a little bit longer than that, depending on what other guests we have. But just to come in and share what the best people in the world have to say about their topics. Which brings me to today's topic, because I'm looking for a psychologist. Not for a person.
You want to lie down and talk about it.
Personally, I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling great, actually. But I'd like to plug the other element, the other theme that really comes up in the podcast, I think, from the early days of what I've launched and what I've put out there is a psychology theme. Like, how do we deal, whether it's in business, I was saying this to Simone now, it doesn't need to only be in business, but in life as well. How do we deal with some of the challenges that we come across in life from a psychological perspective? You've got Sean, potentially, who can help us out from an entrepreneurial perspective, and obviously my experience as well. We've got Ronen, who can help us out from a mindset perspective and being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And that's something else that I'm proud to say that I've learned a lot about over the last 2 years. We've got Simone, obviously, who I value more than anything else. Let me just say that, because this wouldn't be happening here without Simone. And aside from her business brain and her ability, her entrepreneurial ability, her PR knowledge and all that stuff. But I feel like there's a missing link here, which I want to plug, a gap here that I want to plug, which is one of a psychology thing. I would like to be speaking to psychologists on a regular basis. I sound like I am crazy, just realized. But speaking to psychologists on a regular basis to say, hey, we've got a new topic. What would the psychological reasons for this be? Or what would your take on psychology be, etc., etc.? So does that make sense, Sim?
Yeah, it fits perfectly.
Yeah.
Because everything you're talking about is about mindset.
Yeah.
And strength of commitment and challenges and overcoming hurdles.
Right. And I feel like if we do those things, just like I've been doing it for 2 years, if we do those things just somewhere because we do them, great, good for you, you make yourself better. But if you're going to try to share that stuff with other people, you should probably give yourself credibility by having a professional help you share that. And that's, I guess, what I'm doing is.
And also, you want to impart knowledge, and you want to make you and the audience better
Yes.
at who they are
100%.
and learn and grow.
100%. And get some free counseling.
Yeah.
So,
Can I come?
what?
Can I come?
Yeah, you'll be here. So, what I thought, like, just to give you an example, I thought would be a good segue. So, the bottom line is the call to action. Here's your homework, guys. We're doing it in the beginning instead of the end. If you're listening to this and you know a good psychologist, could be a psychiatrist, could be a counselor, a therapist. I don't know. Ironically, I did my honors in psychology, and I have zero idea about like how the hierarchy works. But if you know someone or you've got an idea of someone, please get in touch with me and let me know. I'm very good at convincing people who aren't comfortable on hearing their own voice. I'm yet to get on camera, but to step out of the comfort zone, it'll make me really proud if we can get someone. That doesn't have to be someone who's uncomfortable. Someone who is comfortable is just as good. But as I said, I'm looking for somebody who would feel comfortable and who would feel willing to come and just share their participation. And it's probably good lead generation as well. You'll build your own circle. You'll show yourself as an expert in your field. I sound like a salesman. So I thought what would be quite cool, and we're not going to do this too long. We're going to keep this episode quite short because the episodes have started to get a bit long in the tooth, and I'll try to avoid that because we want them to be achievable. But when you've got a guy like Renan, Simone, if I tell you my jaw was on the table from the beginning to the end of it. He was so insightful, and not even like what I love about it, and that's why I'm so happy that he's like connected and he's such a good guy. He makes it so he makes sharing the stuff so digestible. He talks like a human being. He doesn't get too aggressive, which a lot of the people in that kind of space, like David Goggins and Andy Frisella, they can get quite aggressive and they're quite intimidating. Renan's such a calm dude, and he's such a lacquer guy. Sorry, I'm like, I've got a real part of, forgive the phrase, but a real hard on.
I can't wait to hear the episode.
It's so good. But anyway, so the point was that we're going to keep this short. What I was thinking about was, I was reading a book. So after the launch of the podcast, an old friend from school actually also got in touch with me, and she mentioned that she's been reading a book called Ikigai, and it's a Japanese philosophy basically of achieving flow, and it's kind of like I forgot the name of the other one that the Japanese have about like basically not taking life too seriously and not trying too hard. But Ikigai, everyone will know about Ikigai. Even if you don't know the word, a few months ago, it's probably still on Netflix. There was a documentary, 6-part documentary, whatever, about centenarians, the people who've lived over 100, and there's blue zones, they call them. I never watched the documentary. I haven't watched the documentary, but I will after I finish reading the book. But the Ikigai is what this book is about those centenarians, essentially. It's about how do these people live to a very long old age. And what was so interesting, I'm at a part in the book where it talks about task selection or multitasking, really. And I thought it would be a good way to say, hey, if you know of a psychologist, get in touch, because I would love to put this to a Western psychologist and say, what is your opinion on this? Like, what can we as humans do? Because more and more, I'm hearing people say, I've got ADHD.
Are they saying that because you multitask, you live longer?
No, the opposites kind of thing. Oh. Well, the multitasking part of the book is a very small part. It's like one little thing, but it got me thinking, like, here's a good thing that I'd like to get an answer on, or like get some help on, from a psychological perspective. What they basically say is, essentially, Ikigai is about finding your flow. Okay, it's about sitting in a sweet spot where, and they do a beautiful analogy where they say, if you do a task that's too easy for you, you're going to get bored, right? So you're going to sit over here. If you do a task that's too difficult for you, you're going to feel challenged, and you're going to feel like, I can't achieve this. And you're getting frustrated, and you're going to stop. Ikigai is sitting in the middle. It's finding that flow to say, I need to find a task that's easy enough for me to do, but challenging enough to keep me interested, because I actually don't know the answer to it, and I've got to figure it out.
But also being flexible, I would imagine, because if you're sitting in your sweet spot, then eventually that task is going to become
exactly
not challenging anymore, and then you got to find
I guess that's learning. You just described learning or progression.
Yeah.
That's why we have a test.
Stay.
We have a test at the end of a year, and then we go, oh, cool, I'm now no longer in the sweet spot. Then you go to the next year. Wow, this is really tough.
Yeah.
It's a good analogy. Yeah. So essentially, like so what it talks about is about task selection, talking about flow sitting between a vague objective like not having a goal or a mission, and the obsession of an objective.
Okay, so both extremes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, what we're saying here is if you've got a task that's too easy, it's an extreme, it's too easy. If you've got a task that's too hard, it's an extreme, it's too easy.
Or is it a task that's too easy, or maybe you just like a procrastinator or lazy?
Well, I think what they get at, and maybe, maybe I missed the point of this, but it's not what may be lying behind procrastination is the fact that you're going to be, this task is too easy for you, so you're not going to do it. And maybe it's lying on the other side of, this task is going to be too hard, so you're not going to do it. So you kind of, maybe that's where procrastination lives, is I don't want to do either. So you procrastinate.
Why are you procrastinating?
All
Well,
right.
you can ask your psychologist that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
When someone refers, but and I think that the point as well is like that's where the vagueness. So what they also talk about, which is quite beautiful, because I think the point that they get at as well is you're never going to get flow unless you set a goal and are working towards a goal. And I can attest to this 100%, because in my previous business, when I was living in LA and like not really loving life, and I wasn't bought into the mission of the business anymore, and I wasn't loving the day-to-day job that I was doing, the goal was there, but I wasn't buying into the goal. The CEO of the business, he had the goal, and he was the one who was responsible for that. Sorry. The joys of recording a podcast is the dog just came in and stole my shoe to go and chew it to pieces. So Simone's just gone over to run after him. But just to get back to this point is, he was responsible for the goal of the mission. So he had a goal, and then the business was going in a direction, but I'd stopped believing in that goal. So I needed to quit that job and move away from that environment where I felt like I was just floating around in a nebulous void, and actually set a new goal for myself. And I think that's what I've found in like doing this new life that I'm living, in terms of, I feel like the flow is coming. I feel flow around me all the time, and I didn't feel it for many years in the previous business. I feel flow in like when I'm doing one of these podcast episodes, or I feel flow when I'm sitting in my inbox and a new lead comes through and says, "Hey, I want to talk to you about some digital marketing." Or I feel flow when I meet with Simone and she goes, "Hey, I've just had a really great conversation with somebody I want to tell you about." I didn't feel that flow when I was doing the previous business, because I wasn't into that goal. Now my goal has changed, and my goal is, hey, build your own life and take responsibility for your own life, and make yourself happy and get comfortable in the uncomfortable and be the best in the world at something. So I feel flow now. And I think that's the point about what they're getting at in terms of having an objective and having a goal to work towards. And I think that's for you as well. Like, you've made it clear on this podcast that your goal now, that your kids are 18, 21, sorry.
Give or take a few years.
Is you've got a goal for the business, and now you're on a mission to kind of make that goal happen. And that's beautiful. Like, you wouldn't have gotten to where you are now if you didn't have goals. Like, to make it to 20, what you said, it was 18 years. 28 years. 28 years.
Yeah. My kids are 21. Headlines is that.
And you know what the worst part about this is, I'm not even dyslexic. I'm not even dyslexic. I can't even.
Don't worry, I'm battling to keep up.
My memory shots, I think. Too much weed when I was younger. But yeah, that's the concept that like of this Ikigai, which I'm really enjoying. So to Leanne, if you do catch this episode, thank you for introducing it to me. It's called, okay. It's similar to another concept that I was doing some meditation to before I launched the podcast, called Wu Wei. I'm probably butchering the name, but Wu Wei. And essentially, Wu Wei is a Japanese concept as well that essentially says, stop trying so hard to do it. It sounds ridiculous. You've got to really give it a listen, but basically says stop trying so hard, because when you don't try as hard when you don't try too hard, actually things kind of fall into place quite nicely. I don't know enough about Wu Wei to make any comments, but it's a very attractive idea to say, hey, just take your foot off the pedal a little bit and let things fall into place. So if you can figure that out, that would be amazing as well. Yeah. And I mean, I think it gets to the other beautiful thing that they share in the book. And it would be lovely, as I say, to get a Western philosophy on this, is they share an amazing analogy. He says, when you're sailing a boat, you don't need a map. You need a compass. Because a map will tell you where you need to go. It'll tell you where your destination is. But a compass will tell you which direction to go in. And having a goal is like having a compass, essentially. That's what they say.
Because it's not, there's many ways of getting there.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other angle I didn't think of. Yeah. If you're looking at a map, you can probably go 5 different ways. But if you got a compass, you know which direction you need to go in. Otherwise, you just are going to eventually probably get there, but probably not in the smartest way. And I think that's what that the whole purpose of having a goal. You know, he talks a lot about. I actually don't even know if it's written by an author. It must be written by an author. But the other thing he talks about is like multitasking. We tend to be so proud of ourselves in Western culture. Like growing up, we always so commonly the little girls would say to the little boys, "Yo, well, I'm a girl and I can multitask, and you're a boy and you can." Well, there was a joke like, "How do you distract the boy? Just get him to play with his balls, because then that's all he can do is one thing at a time." And it's probably pretty true. But we tend to put multitasking on a pedestal and say it's a good thing.
And be proud of it, but actually, you can't do. And I don't know enough, but I think if you've got 2 tasks and you're multitasking, you're generally doing like a 50-50 job or a 70-30. I don't think you can do 100-100.
So do you multitask?
I try. But, you know, and you think you're doing it well until you get to the end of the task and you look back and think, what just happened there? What was that conversation about?
And you end up having to redo it anyway.
Yes. And then I actually realized recently that I can't multitask very well.
Eleanor used to say, call me 70% Steve. Because that's what I would do. I'd do a 70% job on things. It's not a multitasking, but if I was washing the dishes, I'd do 70%. If I was making coffee, I'd do 70%, like 70% Steve, right? Which is fine. But I think the multitasking, and you're 100% right. Because in the book, they talk about like studies where they discuss multitasking. And I wrote it down here, hold on. Working on several things at once lowers our productivity by at least 60% and our IQ by more than 10 points. So it actually makes us stupider. I don't know how IQ works very well. It works in like 120 or something. I can't remember exactly. But multitasking actually makes us dumber. It lowers our IQ points.
Oh, really?
Apparently. So it makes us
not really focused on one thing.
Yeah. And it makes you. They also talk a little bit about having too many tasks and balls in the air means that you actually don't have the clarity of like where you want to go and like what you want to do. So you tend to procrastinate. You tend to like not do it. And I think that's in a way is what multitasking is. You're procrastinating on this project to go and do this project. Then you do. And I think what's made it even worse, and this is where this is why we need a psychologist in this conversation, guys. Because a psychologist will weigh in heavily here. If you take all of that and you tie it up to the fact that we live in the year 2024 with these god-awful cell phones in our hands and all these shitty social media apps, we have zero attention on what we should be doing. No wonder everyone's ADHD.
Well, some people sit with 3 different screens in front of them.
So they talk about a study they did with like university students. And they were like, cool, we studied those that are multitasking and those that don't. And like, this is where we got this statistic. They were explaining what the ones who multitask were doing. They were reading a book while listening to a podcast, while
scrolling Instagram,
while answering messages. And I'm sure they're embellishing this. And then I read it again. I was like, they can't be embellishing this because it's a study. They wouldn't be allowed to embellish it.
No, I can't believe it. You just have to watch people.
Do people do those? How can you read a book? Maybe I'm not as ADHD as I thought.
I've seen people, let's say, watch a movie on Instagram and answering messages. So I'm not sure about the reading the book bit or the specifics of it. But I think, especially the youngsters, I think their minds must be wired differently because they consume so much at such a rapid pace that I think I think it's possible for them. How well they're doing and how well they're retaining is a whole nother discussion. I don't know. But I think they do.
Well,
I think
that's,
the youngsters
and I
do.
mean, if we really want to go down that rabbit hole on that, then we can start talking about how AI, do they really need to retain stuff these days because we've got AI to do it for us? So they don't need to legitimately, like these kids could be in a lecture, record the lecture, feed the notes into AI, or AI could just listen to the lecture for them and give them a one-pager of say, this is what you need to know. I mean, think about what we spent our university careers doing, summarizing notes. And like that's gone. So these kids now go, all I really need to do is memorize this one page.
We have to retain it. That's what they have to do.
Which is a whole other side of the brain, I'd imagine. And now these kids are going to be like, what? But that's the downside. The upside is what more can they do with all this time that they now have on their hands? I mean, I look at myself and I look at some of the work that I get done using AI, and I legitimately, over the last 2 months, 3 months, really started to dawn on me of how much time AI saves me, right? Researching and just giving me ideas that in the past I would have had to think of on my own. This would have been a 2-hour event. Now it's taking me 10 minutes. So I've got an hour and 40 minutes to do other things. So I recognize AI will be a good thing.
Far more productive in some areas.
Well, it gives us the opportunity to do more things or different things.
Or focus on your core job, or focus on important tasks.
Yeah.
So you can outsource the menial stuff to AI and then focus on.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Anyway, this is why that's our rant. If you, bottom line is, don't multitask. That's what Ikigai is saying. Is like, get into a task, focus on it, have a goal that you're working towards, and you'll get into your flow and you'll get it right.
It's so important for people skills and communication when you're talking to someone to give them your full attention. And I think it goes a very, very long way, and the people you're speaking to or engaging with really appreciate that. And you're building connections. You're building connections.
You've hit on it. It's such a huge deal because AI is AI. It's not humans. And we still human beings, and we still in a social society. Body language still means, and I don't give a shit what you say. Body language is a real thing, and reading body language is a real thing. I know there's people out there that say, no, you can't read body language. It doesn't really mean that much. I absolutely 100,000% disagree. There was a great book that I read many, many years ago called The Body Language Bible, I think it was, or something. I can't remember, but I've always been interested since I did my honors in body language, because I realized you see it in people. And what you just described as well about giving attention to people is just so important, man. We just don't do that anymore. Listen. And turn your phone off and just, don't distract, like get involved and like that kind of thing. So if anything, that's what we should be doing with the time that AI buys us, is being more sociable, I think.
Being present in the moment,
Like in a way, that's why I like things like those note takers on Zoom calls. Like they take the notes for you, so you don't have to sit there.
You can concentrate in
the thing. The problem is that what ends up happening is people go, oh, well, I don't really need to pay attention to this person because they're not really in front of me. And I don't need to take notes anymore. I'm just going to pull up a game of solitaire and I'm just going to play that. And it's
then you'll realize you haven't heard a word of the conversation.
Yeah, we've got to start valuing more what we can actually, and I think where we're really going to see what you've just described, which I think is so cool, like being present and socializing. I think we're already seeing with the youth, the young generation, who are struggling to have conversations with people, struggling to meet people to date. Like you've got like now it's trends is like these balloon popping games like on YouTube where people are like, it's a way to meet people is you go into a YouTube channel, there's like 10 girls and a guy, and the girls all have a balloon and they pop the balloon if they're not interested in the guy, like as he talks, or like that is legitimately a reality for some people. Like that's the only way that they have the confidence.
I suppose it's like swiping left or right as well.
This is it. Which is a pretty great way to meet. Like it has removed a lot of drama of going to nightclubs and stuff like that.
It has its place.
Yeah, but do we rely on it too much? We need a psychologist to tell. Beautiful. Homework, guys. Please reach out to me if you know of any shrinks. I don't know if that's a derogatory term. social, whatever it is. Somebody who's got an opinion, it would be great. Like Ronen, like for example, it would be great to have a really physiological input and a brain science input on this, because like Ronen, I don't think he's not a psychologist. He's just a successful entrepreneur, but he knows about his brain science, man. Oh, great book. He talks about Stealing Fire. That was what taught him about this brain science stuff. The stuff, you got to listen to the episode, guys. If you haven't listened to Ronen's episode and Sean's episode, beautiful stories and lots of value. Please go listen to it. But first, DM us and let us know about a psychologist. Simone, thank you. Nice to see you again.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll see you again soon.
Cheers.